Hey,
Nope.
Sina said that he's not going to join. I guess we don't really have anything if the people who actually doing something are not joining.
Yes, that does seem like a less than ideal meeting.
But I guess now we can decide what to do with the gas estimation stuff. It's easier to decide when the people are not here.
True. I would feel a little bit bad deciding without them, though.
See, when I wrote that line there, they then happened to have the time to join anyway.
Oh, suddenly I can make it. Look at that.
What's your stance on it? Would you add it to the current method or make the? I guess you want the V2 to have it.
Yeah, my stance is I would like I would like there to be a way to get both the gas estimate and the call results in the same call. I think that is very
Yeah.
important. Beyond that, my opinion is get much weaker on the specifics. Like I don't care a whole lot about the specifics as long as that's achieved.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to modify the current spec because it, it should be frozen at some point, and I think it should be frozen already. But then I don't know what's the Ethereum's policy. Do they are people annoyed if there's V1 and V2 version because I don't those only exist for the signing, this message signing, I guess, and there's huge amount of those. I think there's like 6 ways to sign a message on Ethereum.
Yeah, the whole message signing is a mess.
Well, I think that there is somewhat good that there's a new all the time newer version, but then still people are using that just signing by hash. Like I was surprised that Fuel worked like that, and wasn't using the newer methods, but maybe there was some cryptographical reason there or something like that. I'm not sure.
I'm guessing not. I'm guessing it's just maybe they didn't know any better, or
Since it wasn't even signed with Ethereum, so it wasn't that standard either.
what do you mean? What sign with Ethereum?
There's that Cive standard that if there's a website that wants you to sign the website with the wallet, then there's a standard on how you should do it. But
You're
they
talking
weren't
about
using
the
that.
you're talking about the prefix, or are you talking about the hex encoding?
Uh, I mean, it is. I said the docs to that Cive. That's a standard on to how do you sign to website with an Ethereum wallet.
Oh, you're talking about for signing with Ethereum. I see.
Yeah,
Right.
and they weren't using that standard.
Yeah. I mean, they may just not know. That's not uncommon.
Yeah. Well, the other option since they're doing GK stuff and that kind of, it might be that those signatures are somehow harder to do or something like that. I'm not sure. So there could be a good reason to do it, but I don't know.
I wouldn't assume there's a good reason. I'm very pessimistic these days.
But I think those signing methods are probably they were all done by MetaMask, so it was in a way somewhat easy to coordinate because they are all in the wallet level. So one wallet could easily just add a lot of those methods. But with this, each similar is a bit harder because all of the clients need to implement it for it to work.
Right.
But I would be fine with that we do the V2 version and then after some time then we do V3 version. But then I'm not sure what the community thinks about that. Do they think that's a good idea or not? Like I think it would be in a way somewhat cool that you always add one feature and then you would call it a new version. So then kind of moving from one version to another is somewhat easy to do.
Yeah. My guess is people will generally be a fan of versioning just because previously we've had no versioning and it was really frustrating for everybody. So everybody suffered the consequences of not doing this. Um, and that kind of helps get people aligned and in agreement with, yes, we should do some kind of versioning. My guess is everybody will have their own opinion on when the right time to version is and all that stuff.
And then one challenge is since there's no way to check with what are supported. So then we would if there's like 4 each simulates, then we would always need to call the 4th one and then check if that's kind of support. If not, then use V3, and if that's not supported, then use V2. And that kind of
Yeah, that's a solvable problem if someone just goes and actually does it.
yeah.
Basically, we need capability detection. So when you first connect to the wallet, one of the things you do is ask the wallet, what are you capable of? What are your abilities? And then once you know the wallet's capabilities, you can then make a decision on how to interact with that wallet. Some wallets, for example, like a ledger, its capability set is very different than a JSON RPC endpoint that has no wallet at all. In fact, they don't overlap at all in that case.
I think that should be a JSON RPC feature, not in a way wallet feature. Because I think with, for example, with those sequencers, they only support 2 function calls, so it would be nice to be able to call them that what you support, and then they would say that you can only send transaction to this endpoint.
Yeah, I mean, if it would be cool if it's JSON RPC feature. I don't think JSON RPC is going to add it, and if they did, it would have to be a new version of JSON RPC spec.
Why it has to be new version? We couldn't just add new JSON RPC method that does that.
No, we could, but then maybe I misunderstood what you were trying to suggesting.
You had speak about wallets, so that the wallets would implement that feature, so it would be maybe in the wallet namespace, but I think it should be in the ETH namespace that you could
Oh, I see what
somehow,
you
maybe it could be in the kind of more over level. You could also query if there's other methods than just ETH methods there as well. So then wallets would return the wallet methods and the ETH methods, for example. But the JSON RPC should also return the methods they are supporting.
I see. I thought you were. I misunderstood. I thought you were talking about something else. But yes, I agree that this should be a Ethereum namespace is the appropriate place for it.
I don't know if it's appropriate because the wallets you probably want similar. Maybe there could be another method in the for wallet namespace as well. Or should be a different method or not different method. Either you add one of these for each namespaces or you add one that kind of you can query all the namespaces the same one.
It would be one. There'd be no reason to do multiple. That would just be silly.
Then it's somehow silly that's in the ETH namespace, even though you can query all the namespaces with it as well.
Right. We can do new namespace. The namespaces aren't anything special. They are literally just how people decide to name methods. That's it. There's no. They have no other implicit meaning.
I think in Get, for example, you can disable some completely namespace, so they have that kind of like, I guess, regex or something starts with this string and these are disabled or these are enabled.
Yeah, you're right. They do.
And then if you add it to new namespace, then it might be disabled by default. Well, I don't know.
Anyways, I think that this has been talked about in the past, and MetaMask is one of the people that would like to do it. Like Dan has pushed for it in the past, or at least push for is maybe the wrong word. Dan has suggested we do something like this, and I agree with him. So getting buy-in is easy. Someone just needs to literally do the work of defining how the capability system works.
But if MetaMask really wanted it, they haven't done that work. Means I think for them it would be the easiest thing to do because they can just make a spec and then implement themselves, and then that's already most of the community supporting it already because the MetaMask has it.
Yes, I mean that would be ideal. That is not the current situation.
Since I think they could easily dominate this kind of thing through.
Yeah, they have the power to push it.
I think there's some method, but I'm sure it's used. Maybe there's EIP or something and it's nobody implemented or something like that.
I don't remember if there's ever an EIP generated. I just know we talked about it in the past, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, we should do that. It's a good idea."
I think I have seen something about this before, but maybe it's a forum post where people discuss, but no one actually made an EIP about it.
Possibly. Hey, Lucas, we have no actual engineers here today. just a bunch of people talking about things.
Thanks. I feel a bit engineer still.
Yeah, I used to be an engineer once.
Yeah, but then I took an arrow to the knee.
Lucas, are you familiar of method where you can check the capabilities of JSON RPC or wallet? Think I have seen some EAP or something about, but I'm not sure. Something that is not actually implemented anywhere, but think there's some spec about it somewhere. Or I remember seeing something like that.
Maybe I don't remember anything, to be honest. Don't know. You can EIP, RPC capabilities.
We're thinking that if we create each simulate tool, then it would be nice to have that kind of method that you could ask if a JSON RPC is supporting one or two or any of those.
No idea.
I feel that's a thing that has been discussed everywhere, but I found it weird if no one has been pushing it any at all forward.
There were few
Yeah, those I
ideas
remember.
about standardizing
Oh.
JSON RPC, even some initiatives some time ago, but didn't go anywhere.
It's hard to find people to do the work. It's not exciting work.
Yeah, it's the least exciting work ever. And it actually needs a lot of like structure and
I'm
multiple
frightened.
client implementations, right? So the worst case scenario.
I think the writing the spec is somewhat fine, but it's always difficult when you need to get everyone to agree on it, and that's the kind of the most annoying about of the work. You need to kind of get buying from everyone from it. And that's the hardest.
Yeah, unless someone really takes that into heart and just goes through all the clients and does it in all the clients, I doubt it will be that easy.
That's very difficult because you need to know so many languages and so many projects and so many
Yeah,
coding styles, and you need really a Superman to do it.
yeah. But that did happen when we had transient startup opcodes, for example.
Or someone did it?
Yeah. There were initiative, I think by Uniswap or someone that's
Yeah, Moody from Uniswap. Did it actually make it, or did it never actually get pushed through?
well, it's on.
Was it?
It's live.
Was it? Was it the one guy or a team that did it?
Yeah, it was one guy, Moody, from Uniswap, who just really wanted it, and he went and implemented it in a bunch of clients, and he put a bunch of work into it, and then like he got pushed back. Even after he did all the work, he got rejected by core devs like for a year and a half or something. He was really frustrated.
For one hard fork.
I think it was a couple of hard forks that he was pushing.
One or two. I think one, but I'm not sure. Or maybe two.
Remember, he was really frustrated because he's like, I literally did all of the work. All they have to do is hit go, and they will not hit go.
But the end result is it's wrongly priced and not used much, so it should be repriced.
Did core devs need to audit it, and that was the difficult that they didn't want to do, or?
I think the testing was the hardest part, I would say. But yeah, I think.
So the Modi didn't do the testing?
Not all. I'm not sure. Yeah. I think that
very serious about their testing.
Yeah, and the end result it's not priced really well and thus not used much. So it should be repriced.
But is Uniswap using it?
No, not sure.
What was the method?
It's opcode.
Which opcode?
T load T star. It's temporary storage.
Transient storage opcode.
Transient storage. I'm not sure
It's
if
kind
it
of
was
cheaper storage, so we just use.
him that did the Nevermind, or maybe he just had someone doing that.
So Solidity is not using that. I think if it's in the Solidity, then
No, it is. It's just people are not using it in their contracts because it's overpriced.
But it's cheaper than normal storage.
Mm, I think so, but still, I don't know.
Yeah.
Ben tried to uh, explain it to me, and I even tried to make our guys benchmark it and propose some repricing, but we didn't do that yet. Yeah, for us, I think he collaborated with someone else to implement it in Nevermind, because I see it was not Moody, it was someone else that did
Yeah.
that PR. So yeah. Um, and to be honest, there was a bug that we uncovered sometime later that was a consensus issue.
No, really,
But well, it wasn't really it wasn't really consensus issue because it was
wrong in all the clients.
no, in our client.
Okay.
I'm not sure it was if you kind of restart it or retried the block, it might go through, but it was like kind of
Yeah.
kind of bad. So that testing is hard.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that to condemn the implementer because it was hard to grasp that this bug can occur, which is very frequent in in the nodes.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
I guess we don't have anything else.
I don't have anything since not everybody's here to discuss the gas estimation stuff.
Yeah, I think we should make a V2 method that has it, and otherwise the same than V1.
V1, V2. I'm fine with doing that in V1, but V2 is also fine.
I feel we should freeze the spec at some point, and then it's always after the next feature we add, we freeze it, but we never do.
Okay, I'm fine with anything, to be honest.
Anything, then I think Micah has a lot of ideas. How to make Ethereum better.
No one likes my ideas for how to make Ethereum better.
We like them, but we don't like to implement them.
But
They're not
one of
my
Micah's ideas is that you don't implement anything anymore.
yeah, just ossify. Stop. It's my least liked idea by everybody.
How I will make money, like earn for a living.
Go build
Make
something
it
new.
V2.
I mean, if you guys don't have, if you guys can't figure out what to program, just let me know. I have a laundry list of things that I would like to build in my lifetime. I will give you a dozen of them.
You know, there's the farther we go in Ethereum development, there are more and more initiatives, more and more EAPs, and more parallel streams that people are working on. So it kind of doesn't work like this.
Yes, that's my number one problem with Ethereum.
But I think that's a sign of success, right?
It's the problem is that, I mean, yes, when you're successful, you keep people tend to keep doing the thing that got them that success, and so you just keep doing it. And the problem is for a financial system, you don't want a financial system that's changing out from under you at once every 6 months. Like, you don't want your bank to be like re-implementing all of its internal stuff every 6 months and having to watch it. You want to be able to put your money somewhere and just, trust that it works.
But
It worked 6 months ago.
I somewhat disagree because we very rarely do breaking changes.
Well, I mean, so it's not the breaking changes aren't what worries me. The fact that there's 4 different clients is actually quite reassuring. Like, as far as building software that doesn't have consensus bugs, and I think the client diversity is the strongest thing going. And you guys, Ethereum does have a good testing team, and so I'm not really worried about bugs. What I'm worried about is people changing just how Ethereum works, like contracts breaking, for example, which has happened. Like, yes, the core devs generally don't do breaking contract changes, but they have. It's not like it never happens. It does. And it's just they go through and you guys look and see, okay, we're only going to break 32 contracts. Let's go ahead and do it. Seems worth it. But if one of those contracts is someone's life savings or whatever, and then this is especially hard when you have counterfactual contracts, so the contracts aren't even on chain. It's just like some off-chain contract that may be deployed later, and then now you can't deploy it later. Stuff like that is what worries me. And then, of course, monetary policy changes, those worry me as well.
I'm not eager on making too much changes there, and I don't think there will be in the near future.
Then you cannot make a layer 2 that has ossified unless if the layer 1 is ossified. That's also one interesting feature that you could get with ossification.
Yeah, we're stuck with these constantly. Like, there are a few layer 2s that I've talked to that I asked them, can you guys ossify and be an actual layer 2 where you don't have anyone in control, totally permissionless? And aside, the second reason why they say they won't do that or can't do that after the whole we're worried about bugs issue is they're like, well, Ethereum can change, and as long as Ethereum can change, we can't ossify. Like, we can't relinquish keys because Ethereum can change out from under us and break. And so we have people unwilling to build actual layer 2s because they're similarly afraid that the L1 could change, and they have to be able to adapt to that.
Okay, but what's the solution? Just get stagnant? Then you will
yes.
be replaced.
I am totally okay with that. I am very much not a one chain to rule them all guy. I am a big fan of Ethereum. Like, Bitcoin was around, it was great, it was useful, it still is. Eventually, it will be superseded by Ethereum probably. Ethereum is great, Ethereum is useful. Eventually, it will be superseded. Like, nothing lasts forever, I guess is what my general philosophy on life. That doesn't mean you can't have useful things along the way. And I think Ethereum is a super useful thing, and Bitcoin was a super useful thing. And whatever's next will be a super useful thing. And in the meantime, Ethereum can be useful and valuable. I will admit, the one big problem with this is the whole thing where the system's only secure if its native token is valuable. That's a hard problem to solve. Because
I wonder if for layer 2s we could add an opcode that could kind of identify which hard fork we are on, and then the layer 2s would be ossified during that hard fork, but when the hard fork happens, then maybe there's some kind of board that can decide what to do on those hard forks. But then they could only modify things on hard forks.
It would be better than the current situation. So the idea is that their upgrades are limited to when hard forks occur. I mean, it still lets them upgrade every 6 months, so you still have upgradable contracts.
Yeah, but as a user, you know when the hard fork is not happening in a way you are safe. And then every time hard fork is happening, then you have to kind of reconsider your options.
Yeah, re-audit everything, every hard fork. The problem is hard forks every 6 months. Like, I used to actually audit all the changes and review everything, make sure it's up to date, and it just got exhausting. I just can't keep up with Ethereum's. Like, I have too many things going on in my life these days to be able to keep track of what Ethereum core devs are doing. Like, I didn't even know the transient opcodes went in, for example. That's how out of touch I am.
Okay.
So we need to figure out how to scale Micah, I guess, so that Micah can still keep up with everything.
Sure. If I had one of me who was dedicated just to tracking Ethereum changes, making sure everything was okay and not bad, and fighting against the things that are bad, then yes, then I guess when the other Micah could then go do other things that Micah wants to do.
Okay, but I don't like the alternative that we are just getting stagnant.
I mean, you can always build something else. Like, this is the thing I don't understand. Maybe you can help me understand. What is wrong with just going and building something else, like Ethereum 2, or whatever? like a
It
new
will
blockchain.
it will start from scratch, right? It's very likely to fail, for example, right? So
Like, is it just a
like
is the issue?
from marketing side, right? Not from the technical side, from marketing adoption side. There's no guarantee it will, you know, change anything in real life, right? It will be a successful product. While if you make Ethereum 10% better, that's a huge benefit for everyone at now, right? Everyone went silent,
If
contemplating
there's
what
no
they
need
said.
for a native currency, would your position be different?
Uh,
Like
what
if it
do you
was
mean?
just a useful database that didn't have native currency, people could build
The
on it.
network effect is what Lucas is talking about. You need to when you make a new one, you somehow need to do marketing to get the same network effect in the new chain as well, and that's
Yeah,
very expensive.
I guess my weak claim here is that the only reason you need to have a big network for a database is when your database is hosting a currency. If you just have a database, like, people can have MySQL databases and Postgres databases, and everybody can have their own, and it's okay. Like, you can have 10,000 different databases out in the world, and they don't all need to be one mega global database. And I think that's because the problem here is that Ethereum is trying to be a currency, and for a currency to work, you really need everybody to use it, and there needs to be one. And that's the problem I have not been able to solve. I don't know how to get rid of the currency and still have a decentralized database.
I don't think that's the only reason, because you still need to have the decentralized database, and the way we do it is that we have a lot of nodes, so then you need to have a lot of people to support it. And that's also one
Yeah,
reason why
that's
you also need network effect.
but we don't even have a lot of nodes anymore. This is the second thing I argue about all the time, which is that no one actually runs a node. There's Infura, QuickNode, Alchemy, and then like 12 devs. That's Ethereum network these days. I guess Cloudflare's got one. There's literally, like, you can count the number of people that are running nodes, and it is not a big number in terms of actual unique actors, which is what actually matters. And so we don't even have the benefit of this hypothetical big network in terms of decentralization. We have, like I said, a dozen people. I'd be more convinced if we actually had, everybody running a node on their local machine. And maybe Portal Network will help with that.
I think we also have all the sexes, or are the sexes running on Alchemy and those. That's something that I don't know, but I would imagine that those sexes would be running their own nodes, because that somehow feels a lot safer when they're managing customers' funds.
You would hope.
But I don't know.
And maybe, I think Coinbase probably runs nodes, you're right. And Kraken may run their own nodes. That seems reasonable to assume.
I think they all have the validators, so I think they would kind of have. Well, they also might be buying that service from somebody else.
I'm thinking about what you said and trying to come up with a repost. This easier one. We don't really need all people running nodes. We all potential for people running nodes. So if anyone becomes dishonest, someone else can run the nodes and be done with it, right? That's enough.
Well, except for, so you have a few problems. One is the censorship problem. Infura actively censors, and it is a real problem for users.
What do you mean by sensors? Infura sensors?
Like,
You
everyone
mean
from Venezuela is censored by Infura.
okay? So someone in Venezuela can run the node. Problem
That's just
solved.
it.
Right?
People in Venezuela can't run a node because the cost of running a node is too expensive for people in Venezuela. You have to use QuickNode, Alchemy, or Infura, and Infura is what's baked into literally every tool. Applications all bake Infura into their app, and these days they don't even let you use your connected wallet anymore, which is incredibly frustrating for us. We run into it all the time. That's a potentially solvable problem. Getting applications to actually be built in a decentralized way is maybe solvable.
Like running node is not that expensive now. Don't get me wrong.
It is when you're in Venezuela and you can't afford to buy a machine just for Ethereum. Like, users cannot run nodes on their home computers. Is basically the argument I always make. You can build a machine that runs a node, and it probably costs you $500 or so. But you cannot run it on like a home computer like that you've already got. you have to go out and buy something specialized hardware. Because no one has 4 terabyte drives on their home computer.
Okay, you potentially need a drive.
Right.
And we are bringing 4.4s to handle it.
4.4s will help, and Portal Network will help a lot. I mean, there are things on the roadmap that could help address this problem, and I'm looking forward to seeing if they do. Like, I'm not totally pessimistic.
I think in a year or two, this will be mostly obsolete.
You are more optimistic.
What is obsolete? Ethereum? Or this argument?
That'd be great.
The storage, well, maybe not obsolete, but reduced a lot, because obsolete would have to go to stateless to be obsolete. That's longer.
Yeah.
Is there some state rent or something? Or what solves the state growth problem?
Well, not the state growth problem, but running a node without the stateless solves that, right? So you still can't do everything because you need the state to do some things, but you can at least interact with the blockchain in really decentralized matter.
But who is storing the? Someone still needs to store the. Someone needs to run.
Yeah. But Portal also helps you with that because it can give you the part of the state, right? So there are ways that we are developing that will handle that. Or I would say, I think of Portal. I'm not sure if Portal launched the state network part. They were to launch it this year. I'm not sure if they finally launched it. Need to look into that, but the idea is there. The history network is already there and working. I know because we have an integration with it. Not sure about the state network. And then if we have stateless clients and state network through Portal, kind of, I'm not sure if it's fast enough really to be useful, the state network. But if it is fast enough to be useful, then we're kind of done.
Yes, if nothing else changes. The thing I'm worried about is that as soon as we get any breathing room in terms of state, people are going to be like, okay, let's 10x the gas limit. Let's, add 10x the blob limit, and we're just back to where we started.
10x in gas, if you have statelessness, is not a big deal. It does CPU, which we have really a lot of headroom. Of course, if you want to build blocks, it's more problematic, but
yeah, and I'm not worried about building blocks. I don't mind block building requiring heavy hardware. That doesn't bother me really at all. What I worry about is, so let's say we get Portal Network and it's great and it does everything it promises to do. And we get Verkle trees, so we can actually have proofs that are not insanely big.
Yeah, or something similar, okay.
It's something similar, whatever it is. And so people can now run a fully validating client, stay up to date with head without needing multiple terabytes of hard drive space, right?
So you will complain about bandwidth now.
About what?
Bandwidth.
Yes, that's exactly where I was going. Because then people will say, okay, we now have breathing room. Let's 10x the gas limit. And now, in order to get the proofs necessary to validate a single block, you're going to need to download, a gigabyte of data just to validate one block.
No, not really gigabytes.
I'm exaggerating I'm exaggerating with the gigabyte. The point being is that we're on home networks with people with just using their regular daily driver machines. They don't have a dedicated bandwidth for this. They're doing other things. They're browsing the web. They're watching Netflix. They're playing games. They're listening to Spotify. Whatever it is they're doing with their computer is a home computer for doing home things. And we can't expect them to be willing to dedicate 100 megabits to getting blocks every 10 seconds that have 200 million gas in them and with proofs for the whole thing. Like, that's huge. And so we're trading. So yes, if we get all of this stuff that we just talked about, that'd be great. I'd be very happy. I'm very worried that immediately following that or immediately before that, we're going to spend all that gain we got on more gas or something else.
Well, to some extent we will spend, but there is some resource requirements that we have to go for, right? There always will be.
Yeah, so I mean, we have to set some lower bound. Like, I don't think it's reasonable to say, okay, you can run Ethereum on your phone. Like that's not a target. The target, I used to think that everybody was kind of in agreement that we were targeting was people's home computers, meaning computers they already had in their home. They can run an installer, and then the Ethereum client will run in the background. And so IPFS is a good example of this. I have IPFS desktop running, and I've had it running for years, and it doesn't. I don't even notice it's there. It doesn't consume too much bandwidth. Doesn't consume too much drive space. Yet I'm contributing to the network. I'm sharing files. I can use it like that. That's the ideal that I would like to shoot for. And I think I'm pretty alone in that. I think most of the people in core dev these days don't agree with me that that's the target demographic who should be able to run a node.
I disagree because I'm running the node on my own hardware, maybe not constantly, but for long periods from time to time, and it's fine. My hardware, maybe except my bandwidth, is not something special, not anything special.
And is it a computer you do other things with?
Yeah. I develop on it.
Okay. And I'm guessing you bought a hard drive for it, though, right?
Yeah, that's the only thing. I have a hard drive.
And do you think that you'd still be able to do that if we got 4.4s and Portal Network and everything and proofs, and every time you want to validate a block, you had to download a full 100 million gas worth of proofs?
Yeah, I think so. That's not that big amount. I think 30 million was ballpark of less than megabyte, so that would be few megabytes. Or way less than megabyte, I don't remember. But it was in kilobyte size, so even downloading a few megabytes. So for example, with EPBS, the latency games are also more important. But with EPBS, we have a lot bigger window to do that, and I think there with some I don't remember. I'm not sure, but okay, I'm not sure about that. I thought with EPBS, the latency games stop being that important potentially, but I'm not sure if that's correct. So
for stakers or for home users?
For producers. Yeah, for producers.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I don't care about producers. You can make them all required.
No. But the problem is that producers withhold the blocks till late, right? So we have a short time to download it, to attest to it. But I think there's something in the pipeline that should fix that, so they don't have incentive to wait till the last moment. So that will help with the bandwidth.
I don't think that will change anything in terms of people running just full nodes or validating clients.
Well, it does change that if you have 1 second to download, validate the block, and push attestations, or you have 6 seconds to do that. That's big change on the bandwidth side.
When I say validating, wait, better naming for these. When I say validating client, just a client that is following ahead and validating all the state changes. So they're
again, it does on the bandwidth side because you have a lot more headroom and time to do that. So your bandwidth requirements are lower.
If you're not attesting, you just want to follow head.
I just want to follow head. Okay.
Sorry about that. I got disconnected.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I see what you mean. Okay, yeah, it doesn't make big changes there. Yeah, okay.
What I'm worried about is just that if you've got, let's say, I don't know, 25 megabit home network for people in, third world countries and Germany, because apparently Germany's internet sucks.
I don't care about Germany much. I'm Polish, so that's my mortal enemy.
Okay.
So Polish people who run nodes.
I'm joking, but they can fax the blocks if they want.
So the question is how much. I think it is certainly possible to make changes to Ethereum, such as Portal Network, such as 4.4s, such as Berkeley trees, or something similar, etc., and have it so the target demographic that I used to think everybody agreed was our target can run nodes, and that would be people who are running on their home computers. I'm not sure that's true if, let me rephrase that. I guarantee you that's not going to be true if the core devs don't agree that is our target demographic. If everybody thinks our target demographic are people who build custom PCs to run Ethereum, then we will use up as much space as we can to hit that target demographic. Like, we will hit whatever target demographic we choose to go for. And the target demographic that core devs seem to be going for when I talk to them is not the home user. It is people with specialized hardware who go out of their way to run and maintain an Ethereum node.
So I somewhat disagree, all right? Because, like I said, we are testing, for example, with this kind of user in mind. We are setting gas limits or gas pricing opcode with that user in mind. The whole like statelessness is to actually alleviate a lot of burden of that user, huge amount of burden from that user. So the problem is we also want to do scaling, and why not? We do want to scale. We want to scale blobs. We want to scale execution, right? Both. And I think the major problem in the future is bandwidth in that regard, and I somewhat agree there. But this is the major problem.
The major problem is what?
Bandwidth, internet connection bandwidth.
Yeah, and so
all other things have potential solutions, right? All other things have. Yes. They're not here yet, but that's why we don't want to ossify the Ethereum, because we want to solve those problems, right?
So, is it correct that your honest opinion is that the core devs care a lot about making sure that Ethereum, or trying to make it so Ethereum can run on consumers' daily driver PCs, like the computers?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm talking about whole core dev, but I know that Gev team, for example, has this as one of the top priority, and that's why they also their kind of beef with the researchers is that researchers are pushing for scaling a lot, and that kind of is somewhat compromising on this, especially if depending how we deliver things, right? So that's kind of one of the point of conflict, right? I think researchers want to scale more, but the core devs actually are trying to make it real, because they are the ones that support this, right?
Yep. And do you think that the core devs are going to win in the long run, or do you feel like
Well, we can just say we won't implement it, so we have the final say, right?
Yes, but I guess the thing I worry about, this gets to the argument I'm always making with people on capture, where like it used to be, Geth and Parody and then Nethermind and Besu. Besu has always been kind of the corporate version, the corporate client, and so they're a little bit outlier there. But then we got Aragon, and they're not corporate, but they definitely do not share Geth's position on who the target demographic is at all. And that's fine. You're like, okay, they're building their client for a different target demographic, but they do
on the other hand, they are doing great work with Archive, right? So they kind of democratized Archive nodes.
They're doing great work. So like, as from an engineering perspective, I think they're doing great things. The thing that worries me is that now you have, so start with the addition of Aragon, you have one group at the table, you have two groups at the table now who aren't pushing for the target demographic of end users, that being Besu and Aragon. Besu's always been kind of ambivalent though, so I'm not too worried about them, just philosophically. But then you got Reth, who joined recently, and they're pretty strongly not like ethos aligned with the let's target end users. They're much more like thinking about things like MAV and VCs and businesses and things like that. And so my worry here, and then you have, Peter leaves and you have Danny leave. And so over time,
I'm not sure if Peter left, but
just hiatus for an unknown amount of time.
I think he will be back.
Maybe. What I'm getting at, though, is...
To be honest, giving you a heads up, I'm also planning 2 to 3 months leave in the summer. But I'm
2 to 3 months is
I
very
am
different from
capping it at that, right? So it's not
yeah.
longer, but I want to just do a proper reset and
I think that's
and
reasonable. Yeah.
some energy. Mhm.
What worries me is that we have over time the aggregate ethos of core devs has been shifting, and I am not at all confident that in the long run core devs are going to continue indefinitely to care about the end user as the target demographic. And so, like you're right. Right now, there are still people in the core devs that are fighting for it. But like you mentioned, research used to also be very aligned with core devs. Like there were a lot of the same people. And these days, that's not the case anymore. And this is just like a slow thing that's been happening over the course of a fairly long period of time. And I'm just not at all confident that we're going to end up maintaining that ethos of, okay, let's target end users, let's make sure these things run on people's actual machines so you can maintain censorship resistance if someone's actively trying to censor you.
Okay, like I said, there are different ways of censorship resistance, right? Getting you access to the blockchain at all, or getting your transactions in. So you're saying again, this the getting
Yeah,
access, because the second one
even
is
access.
actually being solved by the fossil inclusion lists. Second version.
Yeah, that one I'm more optimistic on that one. We do have a bit of a
Is there
censorship
specs for that?
problem.
Yeah. There's a spec for that. Yes.
Can
And
we
it
get to
I
share it?
Uh, it's I will look it up for a second.
Somewhere on the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
I know what you're talking about though.
There was a breakout room if you want to look at it. Oh yeah, let me. There's a good researcher. I think there's an EAP already somewhere, or it's being written. They want to get that into Osaka.
I'm reasonably optimistic about the inclusion list being able to mostly address the censorship issue we're seeing right now on mainnet. And honestly, the censorship issue has almost kind of semi been addressed on its own. It's still a problem, but
Yeah, it's
it
bigger. It's
went
a
from getting much
bigger.
worse to getting better.
Yeah, I think it's a more problem in potential than actually being so big problem in reality, but we want to address it to
Yeah.
not go away completely, right?
Yes.
Instead of
Hoping that it just doesn't get worse.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, like I'm agree. I'm in agreement with that. The one I'm less confident that will be solved is the um, ability for people to run their own nodes, especially as we know that the centralized nodes will censor people because they do today. Like that is a real problem for people.
But if it censors enough people, I don't see why someone won't invest those few $100s into an infrastructure that will address that. Like it's not thousands of dollars, it's not $10,000s, it's few $100s potentially, right?
Um, yes, I mean
Plus the bandwidth, of
plus
course.
the bandwidth, which for a lot of people that's just
Yeah,
bandwidth isn't
again, the
solving the
bandwidth
problem.
is the hardest things to solve at the
Yeah,
moment, to be honest, from the resource point of view.
right.
I do agree that this is but it is the most like controversial topic between researchers and core devs at the moment.
The bandwidth issue.
Yeah, I think that's the number one because the rest, even if it's not solved now, like we are actively working on solving it, and it's getting there. It will take those 2 or 3 years to get there, but it's getting there.
And you don't think that when it gets there, people are just going to lobby for using all that nice fresh bandwidth they've just saved?
Well, yeah, they will try. Yeah, definitely, they will try. So
But you think they will not win?
uh, I think there will be some compromise, and we'll see where we get there, and we'll see. Let's see the numbers, right? Let's not just.
And I think this is where we disagree. Then I am less confident
Okay.
than you that
Okay, let me get to the other side of the discussion. So, would you like to Ethereum to stay as is endlessly, 30 million gas and I don't know, 3 blobs?
I would be fine with that. Like I said, I'm a
Okay.
big fan of new blockchain later. Like, I wish ETH2 was actually ETH2.
But it's
would
like
rather
I said,
have it.
it's extremely unrealistic to expect new blockchains coming out and be successful. There will be few, but it will take years for that.
Yes, and this is why, like, the number one reason I have not built a blockchain of myself to compete with Ethereum, because I'm annoyed, is specifically because I know that launching a currency, so having a functional currency requires network effects, and that is really hard to get. If I could figure out how to build a blockchain, meaning a blockchain here, meaning a censorship-resistant and permissionless database, shared database that didn't require currency, I would probably stop my other work and go build that, because I think that would be really useful. That's what I think. What is great about Ethereum is not the currency, in my opinion. It is the censorship-resistant and permissionless database. You can put USDC on there, you can put WPTC on there, you can put whatever on there. That is less interesting to me than having the shared global database, or globally shared database that is permissionless and censorship resistant.
Well, I
I
think
don't know
it's
how to
more
do that
than
without a currency.
just a database. You have also execution, right? That is somehow verifiable, etc.
Yes, there's.
Well,
I
I
mean,
don't
there
know what
is.
do you mean. Maybe you put it on the under database already. So
Yeah, I mean,
definitely.
I put that in database. Like a database can do, like even Postgres can do. What do you call it? Stored procedures.
Yes.
Like it's pretty common for databases to be able to execute code as part of database operation. And so for me, that's the interesting part, because no other database in the world is permissionless and censorship resistant, where anyone can write to the database, anyone can read from the database, and it's shared between users. And so if I could build that without a currency, I would definitely go build that, and then you don't have to. If someone could solve that problem, then you wouldn't have to worry about needing network effects for your database. Your
Okay,
database
but
can be
what's the
useful to
incentive
people,
of running this database then?
because it's got data that is of use to you or interest to you. So like take ENS for example. ENS doesn't need ETH to be ENS. ENS is a useful shared database, and in theory, if ENS was actually permissionless, and then it would be like an ideal name system where anyone could register a name, have it point to something, and no one could stop you. No one could censor your name. No one could take your name away from you, et cetera, et cetera. All the things ENS is supposed to do. You don't need ETH for that. Like you need a shared global database for that, and that's a useful tool that I wish we had. Or rather, we do have it in the form of Ethereum, but in order for Ethereum to work, Ethereum needs ETH. So that's the part I would like to get rid of.
How would you limit that database?
That is exactly the problem. I don't know how to solve this problem without a currency, and it frustrates me to no end.
Things are finite, right? In infinite world, you could do that.
Yeah, sure. In an infinite world, you could do it. Realistically, I don't know. I mean, something that makes it so you. The best thing I can think of that maybe would work if someone can figure it out, I have not been able to, would be something where you don't have a native currency that is tied to the database itself, but you have a mechanism for charging fees from users in whatever currencies, like let's say USDC running on top of that database. And then you can charge users for that and then distribute that those transaction fees to to block producers in some way. And so you wouldn't need native currency in that case. You would just use whatever currency people want to use on the database. And then if your database, then its usage declines over time, that's fine, because the currency wasn't baked into that database. It was just a currency that happened to live on that database, and it can move. And so the currency can leave the database behind and go to a new database later. And importantly, users can slowly migrate off of it safely.
It's kind of like layer twos.
I mean, so people could move the currency to layer 2s, yes, but ideally you want something that's not bound to layer 1 even. Like there's the big risk with Bitcoin, for example, is Bitcoin's ossified for the most part. And over time, as there's a very big risk of a bank run on Bitcoin at some point in the future, and a big risk of a bank run on Ethereum at some point in the future. And so when these layer 1s eventually get superseded by something new, everybody kind of leaves. And this happens with actual physical currencies too. This is not unique to digital currency. This is a currency problem. If your currency is a global dominant currency and everybody leaves it because there's something new or better out there, that can be a very big problem for the people who are the last ones to leave. Interesting, we didn't see this with the British pound. So the British pound used to be one of the top currencies. It's not anymore, but there wasn't a big exodus. And I don't know, maybe we can figure out how to replicate that. Like British pound kind of wound down safely.
Yeah, guys, I need to finish. Sorry, got a call.
Okay.
Bye.
Nice talking to you. See you guys later.
Bye.